You guys registered for our webinar here, School Mapping Requirements Made Easy with ArcGIS Indoors. And we're going to talk about Maryland's recent school mapping requirements, grant funding capabilities, and then talk a little bit about our experience using ArcGIS Indoors and touch on some firsthand experience in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, who's kind of got a head start on this requirement and this regulation. So we'll start with some introductions. I'm going to take you through some of the state mapping requirements at a high level, if you're not already familiar with them. We'll talk a little bit about ArcGIS Indoors, what it is and how it is a solution for this particular regulation. And Ridge will talk to that topic a little bit. And then we'll end really with the main event, which is firsthand experience from Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We are waiting on Mary, who's going to join us from Anne Arundel Public Schools, and we'll hopefully get her on before we get to that spot. Before we dive into it, let's just do some introductions. So my name is Derek Lutchko. I'm the GIS manager for Land Tech Consultants. Land Tech, we are an Esri partner. So we're a civil engineering and surveying firm. We do a wide variety of work. With respect to this, we've got GIS services and perform indoor GIS services and digital twin development. We're an indoor GIS specialty holder, and we do a lot of work in K through 12, higher education, and a number of other different industries, including water and wastewater, utilities, and transportation. Ridge, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Derek. Yeah. So my name is Ridge Waddell. I'm a education account manager on Esri's global business development education team. So I've been with Esri for 9 years, supporting higher ed institutions and K through 12 districts in the Northeast. So I'm based in the Philadelphia regional office. And through our programmatic educational licensing offerings, I support the adoption of ArcGIS in both the academic realm of higher ed and also the operational smart campus operations world for higher ed and K through 12. So thanks, Derek.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and Mary's running a little bit late. I'm actually just texting with her right now. So hopefully she'll be able to get on, but I'll do just a brief intro for Mary. So Mary, we've been working with her for a little over a year now. She manages the design office at Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And we'll hear more about their story and how they got to ArcGIS Indoors for a variety of reasons and what they went through and how they saw value in what we've done for them and set them up for success here. Alrighty, so let's start with a little bit of background. I know through some of the registrations that came through, we've got some folks from Maryland and some folks outside of Maryland. And the good news is that while we're going to talk a lot about Maryland and the funding and some of the standards here, we believe really that this topic is applicable beyond Maryland, right? We're seeing in the education space that there is a lot of interest and a lot of movement towards indoor mapping and dynamic indoor mapping. And a lot of the focus really is on safety and security, right? It's unfortunate that we live in the times that we do where it is so important and it's critical that we've got accurate floor maps and floor plans and data and information so that when emergencies arise, we've got the ability to act quickly and with confidence. But we are seeing this throughout the industry, and so while this is Maryland specific, I'm sure there's lots of takeaways for folks that are outside of Maryland, whether you've got regulation driving it or just proactively want to make things better for your schools and your school systems. So with that, Maryland, back in 2024, established through a House bill um, funding to provide for mapping all of their public schools pre-K through 12th grade. And this was a collaborative effort, between the Maryland Center for School Safety, the IAC, which is the Interagency Commission on School Construction, the Maryland 911 Board, and the Maryland Department of Information Technology. And so they all worked together to uh, get this funding together and pass through the House. And really, where we ended up was a, a great story where they've got $3 million allocated for all 24 school systems in Maryland. And in Maryland, the school systems are done county by county. So there's 24 counties, and each have their own allocation of that $3 million. So it's really a great thing for the state of Maryland, and all the schools provide that funding opportunity to take this step forward. And I see we have Mary now. Welcome, Mary. So happy to have you.
I am so sorry. I am off work today, and in my mind, it was at noon. So that
Oh,
last 20 minutes of
that's
prep
okay.
work I was going to do.
That's all right. Hey, we're gonna go through. I just have two or three more slides here on the Maryland stuff. Ridge will get into his piece, and then we'll let you do
Okay,
a proper
thanks.
intro right before you tell us your story. Okay. All right. And so, as I mentioned, all the schools have funding allocated to them as part of that $3 million umbrella fund. And those allocations range from 50,000 all the way up to over 400,000. And it's really a function of the number of schools. So the very smaller counties with a smaller number of schools get a minimum of 50K, right? And that's to allow for all the mapping and any software or data collection expenses necessary. And then beyond the cutoff, which is 25 schools, then it's kind of at a per school allocation. And that's how you land on those different numbers for the different school systems. The grant timeline started in July and goes until the end of June in 2027. So that includes the application process, and then there's about 2 years time for you to complete the work. The grant application timeline is coming up soon. So it opened July 15th, and applications are due at the end of this month. In the application requirements, there's a few requirements here. There's the online application form that's necessary to fill out. That's what you see kind of here at the top of your screen. And then there's the project request form that's down here. So when you look at your school district, you'll need a per school cost and description for each school to get it into and meet the requirements of the standards. And then you need a detailed project description. And so that's more of kind of a scope of work. And the notice of funding availability walks through what is required there, both from meeting the standards to timeline to a number of different specifications. And so there is a bit of work there. I'll let Mary talk about that a little bit later because I know she's hopefully just got that in. I know that was her target to get it done this week before she was off, but she's certainly well versed in getting that prepared. And then quotes are not required, but if you are going out for this, you want to get an idea of what the cost will be, both from a software perspective and a services perspective. Alrighty. So I'm going to talk through the standards. So not only did they make the funding available, but they Maryland put out standards for the school mapping. And so I'll walk through this quickly. I don't want to take up too much time because I want to get to Ridge and Mary here, but there's formatting requirements. And this includes making sure that your school maps are both available in a printable version and a digital version. They need to be overlaid on current aerial imagery, aligned true north, and gridded with XY coordinates. From an accuracy perspective, you need to make sure they're verifiably accurate, right? So if you've got out-of-date drawings that you're basing these on, you need to make sure that you go through and verify that what's on the map is really what's in reality and reflective of current conditions. And then the accuracy expectation is that it's sub-meters, so within a meter of accuracy for those location data. There's a lot of data layer requirements. I've condensed this into a couple of bullet points, but it's a few pages in the standard. So there's a whole host of building data from facility level, building level, the floor level, at an individual unit or room level. So all that data that you think about when it comes to a building and representing that on a map. There's a whole host of points of interest, including access types, hazards, and then points of interest both indoor and outdoor. And then there's requirements in the data layers around site-specific labeling and making sure that they are consistent across platforms with case sensitivity. And really, all of this pushes towards the notion of making sure that when you access this map, it reflects reality and will provide a common operating picture for everyone, especially in the event of emergency. Interoperability is a very key component. We met with Maryland Center of School Safety, and that was one piece that was really highlighted as a big priority. Not only do we want all the schools mapped and meeting certain standards, but it's key that the way that you approach it is interoperable with other systems and other organizations and stakeholders, right? And so you want your data to be compatible with other public safety systems. So when you're working with the police department or PSAP 911 systems, they've got a dispatch system that they use typically, and that's what they're going to work out. So you want to be able to share your data and have it be able to be ingested by that system so that you're working from the same data, but those first responders are in their native platform that they prefer where all their other data is. And you need to be able to do that easily, right? An easy file conversion and be able to share that data so that there's no like undue burden to anybody to make your data available. You want to make it easy and interoperable. With any data, you need to have good metadata that talks about and describes your data, the lineage of it, the data quality, how it was collected, how often it is updated and maintained, definitions about what the fields are and what's contained in them, what the domains mean, that sort of thing. So that's a requirement within the standard. And then finally, data maintenance. So we talked about earlier, it needs to be accurate. And that means you need to maintain it over time because, as you guys know, buildings change, schools change, right? And so there needs to be a process. Now, the standard doesn't specifically say that it needs to be maintained on a certain frequency, but they do recommend that there's at least an annual review and verification, which, at least to me, seems reasonable, right? That you can implement something like that to ensure there's nothing that gets too out of date and catch any sorts of changes. So those are the requirements. I'm going to touch briefly on a slide or two. If you're not familiar with ArcGIS Indoors, this will be a great little intro to you. We are, as I said, LandTech, we work with Indoors all the time. We've been partners with Esri and working with Indoors since it was released about 7 years ago. And there's a lot of good reasons to use Indoors. Really specifically on this endeavor, it is very targeted. But when we talk about ArcGIS Indoors, it is a solution. There's a couple key patterns of use. Indoor mapping, right? That's what we're talking about here. Customers use it for space planning and space management. There's the ability to do indoor positioning, kind of like on your phone, you're driving around, you've got your GPS, your blue dot. You can do that inside as well. And then when you've got all this data stored and organized and in a system that allows for analysis, you can do indoor analytics and indoor data collection. I won't talk too much more about indoors. Um, beyond this slide that shows, a variety of different ways that you can use it, because I don't want to steal any of Rich's thunder, right? But you can see there's a lot of different ways that you can use ArcGIS Indoors when you're talking about building an indoor GIS. Um, and so there's a lot of opportunity out there. So again, I'm biting my tongue because I could talk about indoors a lot, but that is Ridge's piece, and I'm going to hand it over to Ridge now. Ridge, you can go ahead and take us through the next couple of sections. When you want me to advance, just give me a nudge, and I'll send you off to the next slide. Okay.
Sure, sounds good. And I did see that we had one audience member with a question, so maybe we can just pause and give him the opportunity to ask his hands up. So, Zach, did you have a question?
Oh, I think yeah. Zach,
We
why
might.
don't can you just put it in the Q&A? I don't think we have the ability to unmic or unmute the participants. So if you put it in the Q&A, we'll stop and we'll get it answered.
All right. And we can maybe wait until the end to do questions for everyone. But so thanks, Derek. That was a great overview of the requirements for the grant. And as you mentioned, I'm going to talk about a little bit about indoor GIS and why indoor GIS in particular, our product ArcGIS Indoors is going to satisfy those requirements. So let's start with a brief overview of indoor GIS. So next slide, Derek. Yeah, so before that, we'll get into, I think there's a few members of the audience that know who Esri is, but for those that are not familiar with Esri, we've been helping our customers apply geographic science and spatial thinking and analytics for more than 50 years. So our approach to problem solving is it's rooted in geography and it's brought to life by the use of our modern GIS technology, which is called ArcGIS. And our mission is to basically leverage this science and technology to create a sustainable and safe world. And to tackle a lot of these complex challenges, it's crucial to understand them within the context of location, which is what we do really well. So our ability to visualize and analyze data on a map allows us to uncover a lot of hidden patterns and trends and relationships. And this starts with mapping our world. So next slide, Derek. So we've basically mapped every inch of the outside world, and with the exception of a few deep oceans and parts of the Antarctic. So it's now, next slide, Derek. But basically we spend about 90% of our time indoors. So this is why we have decided to focus on creating a product that supports activities in a wide range of settings. So that includes offices, schools, healthcare facilities, transportation hubs like airports and train stations. But a lot of this world has never been mapped digitally. It's a vast majority of indoor spaces have never been mapped. Sure, there's CAD floor plans, and those might claim to be locationally accurate, but coming from design engineering software world and talking to a lot of engineers, they've not always been too concerned about location when they're designing their buildings. So this is where we come in. This means that creating indoor maps is the first step we need to take to apply our geographic approach to the indoor world. So that's why we created this product, ArcGIS Indoors. It's only been around for 5+ years, so it's still a very young technology, which we are continuing to develop and putting a lot of research and development into. And we work with our partners and our customers to make sure that we're getting it right. We're listening to their feedback. It's an ongoing journey to figure out how to map this indoor world. So next slide, Derek. So what does ArcGIS do? So essentially, we introduced ArcGIS to help solve these problems, and um, really, it there's really four pillars of indoors. It's an occupancy experience, it's space planning, asset management, and site security and safety, which is what this particular presentation's about, and how indoors can meet the safety requirements of this grant. So, but basically what this indoor GIS system does is it enables a powerful system for understanding a unified floor aware system. So what does that mean? So a floor aware system is basically taking all your building's interior spaces, looking at each floor and visualizing all the particular points of interest and analyzing and managing the indoor built environments as they're built. So so basically, what this does is this capability extends GIS and a geographic approach to indoor spaces. So it's bridging the gap between our outdoor world and our indoor world by enabling this concept of a floor-aware indoor map. And through real-time positioning within ArcGIS, we have an accurate understanding of where we are inside the building. So next slide, Derek. So basically, having location intelligence is essential for safety and security operations. So first responders, they need updated indoor maps of facilities that show them the locations of the people that are in those building, the spaces, the assets, as well as the where the exits are and the evacuation routes are. So what this does is by having an indoor floor aware web map, it's empowering the safety staff and the security personnel and the administrators with a real high sense of improved situational awareness. So that's great because they can access this information right at the right time, which helps them with real timely, important safety and secure evacuation planning. So it's really important for these first responders to have these indoor maps. For example, in many states, and as this legislation gets into, a lot of these, as Derek mentioned, the unfortunate times, it's requiring these K through 12 schools to have these digital indoor maps. So these maps, they can be shared on mobile devices with local law enforcement and first responders to improve their response times in these emergency events. So what we've discovered, and as many of you might be aware, a lot of K through 12 school districts, they don't have dedicated GIS personnel. And there's some that do, but a lot of them don't. So creating and maintaining these indoor base maps takes a lot of work from technology vendors and the partners that support those. So our partner network actually plays a very key role in digital indoor map enablement in this market. So we're lucky to work with folks like Land Tech, and there's a few others on this call that I recognize as well. So and they've been supporting the education space for a while now, so they're familiar with how technology gets enabled through and secured through these administering agencies in K through 12 and higher ed. So, Derek, next slide. So, how does this particular technology tie back to the mapping requirements? So, ArcGIS Indoors is its format is going to provide the core functionality. So we have our ArcGIS Indoors product, and we'll get into how the actual technology is productized in a second here. But the core functionality of ArcGIS Indoors is going to meet those mapping requirements and the formats for the XY grids, the aerial imagery, the paper and digital formats. Um, it's going to allow the precision data collection. So a lot of the data collection for indoor maps, it can be done by either converting good CAD data, or if you don't have CAD data, there is collection devices and scanners that some of our partners have that allow you to use the technology like LiDAR to basically collect the indoor floor data and then build the indoors data model within the ArcGIS Indoors mapping technology. So it's our data model for indoor technology. It's going to be a standard likely across the board as we get better at mapping the indoor spaces. But it's easy data maintenance. So being in the web, it allows for more what I'll call frequent updates, which is good in terms of like not, the advantage of a updated map is it's always going to be available in real time. And the disadvantage of a static map is it might require a third party to make a change to that map, and it might be done, and maybe only the vendor controls that. So with ArcGIS Indoors, the power of maintenance is put in your hands. So it's really important. And when it comes to deployment, you can either deploy it based in a cloud environment through ArcGIS Online, or you can do it in an on-prem behind your firewall environment. So that it's a couple deployment options, which provides different security levels needed. But all the building data is in the core ArcGIS Indoors data model, and the points of interest are simple additions to do, and you can attribute that data very easily. So, and as Derek mentioned, Esri technology is built for interoperability. So we have a pretty slick API. It allows the web-based maps and layers exporting to every format is easy, and like I said, we natively also can support a lot of the safety computer-aided dispatch systems, which a lot of these safety personnel use. So that's real important when it comes to interoperability and working with the first responders. Um, a lot of the built-in capabilities for capturing and sharing metadata can easily be done in multiple formats as well. So ArcGIS Indoors satisfies all these school mapping standards and requirements quite easily. Next slide, Derek. So really what I also like to kind of emphasize here is beyond the security and safety areas, once you are building your indoor foundational data model within ArcGIS Indoors, you're able to visualize your indoor spaces in both the 2D and the 3D environment. And this can help you beyond just site and safety and security. It can help you with locating and maintaining your indoor assets like your fire extinguishers, your defibrillators, things of that are really important in terms of protecting the life cycle maintenance of these assets. So you're also able to integrate this vital indoor data model with other key systems like work order management systems, human resource systems, and facility management systems. So what you're getting is, while you're getting a product that is addressing the site and safety security requirements of this grant, you're getting a much more powerful technology that is really going to be a foundational enterprise technology for your indoor buildings and its occupants and assets. So it's a powerful ArcGIS capability that extends GIS to these indoor spaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a quick overview of pricing, because this is a real selling point in my opinion when it comes to the Esri offering. We offer all of our educational licensing with a discount. So Derek, next slide. Yeah, so basically Esri's licensing for education is it's a programmatic specialty discounted offering. So at the base we have these administrative bundles which start out at $2,500. And then on top of that, you're adding the indoors maps, which is the $5,000 option. And then we have additional modules for space planning and indoor positioning, which are each $2,500. And then just creating a floor aware web map without the other components listed above to just get started. That there's an ArcGIS extension that allows you to convert your CAD data to the floor aware, uh, visualized web data, and that's just a simple $1,000 extension. But really, this pricing is a very low software expenditure compared to other systems, especially systems that are providing static maps only. So we'll talk now, and we'll transition over to Mary's portion of this, because her story starts with a bit of a space and asset management story. But as you're aware, and what I've emphasized, is she's built the foundational indoor model to address the requirements of the grant. So I'll hand it over to you, Mary. Thanks. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue too, Rich. And as you were talking about um, kind of the whole variety of things that you can use and leverage indoors for beyond just safety and security. I was thinking in my head that it really is a natural segue because I think Mary started somewhere else, right? And kind of started from that angle and then came back and it just kind of dovetailed real nicely with what was going on with the mapping standards.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is a great time. Mary, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself because we missed you at the very beginning, and then we can walk through. And just like Ridge, you can kind of uh, nudge me to go to your next slides, okay?
Okay, sure. I'm Mary Patz. I'm an architect. I manage the design office at facilities at Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Um, so we have about, let's see, we have 6 architects, our design professionals in our office. And one of the, we cover a number of things in the schools, one of which is writing the ed specs for our projects, keeping design standards, and managing the archive of 40, probably now 50,000 plus drawings for all of our 127 schools. So this is all of the as-builts from all of the years. So one thing that we daily get questions from all kinds of places, everything from, hey, what is the largest auditorium in our school system? How many gyms do we have that are over 10,000 square feet? So we started out in our office with a plan to try to digitize our floor plans and kind of be able to answer these questions, to organize information about these 40,000 drawings that we have in our system, and to get it into a simple format. So initially, as we started thinking about this, we did look at a couple of different platforms for this, and we ended up settling on ArcGIS Indoors for a couple of reasons. One, we already have a really robust system-wide GIS system that the Department of Transportation uses and the Department of our planning office uses. So the Department of Transportation, obviously, where all the kids are in the county who are being picked up by buses, and Department of Planning, where are all the kids and how do we redistrict schools when needed and so forth. The other thing about this process was that I probably only understood about 10, I'm going to say 50% of what Ridge and Derek talked about earlier. I do not understand the GIS world, but it's user friendly enough that I mean, the word metadata is not in my everyday vocabulary, but these guys, Land Tech has made it easy for us to be able to explain, here's what we're trying to do, and here's the information we want to gather. And my team is able to work on it. So you do not need to be a ArcGIS genius, which is great. We do have some of those in our facilities office, which is also great. So we started with our plan to improve our data. And the way we started was to base our data collection on the format of our educational specifications. For those not necessarily in the school facilities world, the ed spec is kind of the program for any new school building. And because we have 127 buildings and always a very limited budget, we have to be very careful and organized with, how many rooms we're doing, what we're calling them, what their assets are. So we call that the ed spec. That's the program. And because this information is going to be used largely by planning and design, we did align our data information and collection with kind of the definitions in our ed specs. The other thing that we did as we started this project was the state rated capacity for every school. So the state, of course, awards funding based on the size of a school, the need of the school, and what's the capacity of the school. And there's a very distinct formula for that. So one of the questions that our data that we gathered had to collect was, how can we quickly click on a school and say, okay, what's the state rated capacity for the school? So Land Tech worked with us to make sure that that information was properly able to be collected and documented, if you will. So we started this process we had a a limited amount of funds. So we started with 4 existing schools in our school system. We had, I think we just had the CAD drawing. We had CAD drawings for those 4 schools. And we did not have Revit models for those. So these are 3 elementary schools and a middle school that we thought were kind of representative of different phases of times in our school system's construction history. So let's see. We started by making sure we could verify all the room names, the room numbers. We standardized on things like stair numbering. We collected information about AEDs and so forth, and other points of interest. So what we did was we sent these drawings up to Derek at Lantec. He incorporated them into the ArcGIS system, and then using a tablet, we were able to kind of pull up that system, go through the schools and verify the information on them. Derek, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything to that process, because it did go on for quite a while because we were inventing the plane as we flew it, kind of.
Yeah, well, I just want to give a kudos to Mary and the whole team at Anne Arundel County Public Schools, because from the very beginning they were very engaged and involved. And while Mary says, I'm not a GIS person, I mean, she knows her subject matter, and they really had a vision, and so we were able to work together and build it to meet their really specific needs. And so, what she described, I'll just add a little bit to it. Yeah, we started with the CAD drawings for those 4 pilot schools. We brought them in, right? And then there was the process to make sure, let's go walk the schools, let's go validate, make sure that the room numbers, names, use types, right, were all accurate and correct, right? That's part of the requirement too, right? But you just want that. And then as we went, we knew that they wanted to collect additional data that wasn't on the CAD drawings, like the fire extinguishers, the AEDs, the roof access points, and so on. And I don't want to, breeze past what Mary talked about, and I have a bullet here on data model extensions. Um, we spent some good quality time both together, and then they did kind of internally as a CPS to have those discussions about how do we want to standardize our use type hierarchy, or the floor types that and the domain list that we're going to have. So there was a couple of things that they spent some time to decide this will be our standard, right? And will be applied as we go forward. So, outside of just getting the data in and making the maps, right, there was some, internal process improvements that are, I think, a good benefit to a pilot project like this. And the last thing I'll say before I pass it back to you is, right, we configured a couple of different applications. The first one that we went through many iterations on was the editing application. And that was to, we'll get the data in for you, but a there's a there's a step locally to verify, validate, and edit and update. And I think Mary and some other folks from Anne Arundel who aren't on the call can vouch for how easy it was to use some smart forms to make that data collection as easy as possible, have good data quality, so that they could turn it around quickly. But yeah, that's all I had, Mary. I'll hand it back to you. I'm sure they want to hear more about kind of what we've done after and kind of the path forward.
Right. So I kind of do want to point out the upper illustration that you see in this photo is one of our prototype schools from probably 15 years ago, and the kind of different colors that you see, that's one layer of information that's telling us what these rooms will represent, the state rated capacity information. So anything that counts towards the state rated capacity or is a classroom would be one color. So we were able to just add a lot of layers of information, just by kind of working through this process. So let's see, I think we could go to the next slide. So once we got through the pilot project, we actually had, over the last couple of years, we've had 6 new school buildings come online, and we were able to actually fund the implementation of and migration of those projects onto ArcGIS through the through the capital project. So these were more sophisticated. We actually had the Revit model for, I think this is probably our middle school, our most recent middle. I'm not sure what this is, but anyhow, this so it was very interesting because a lot of the information is automatically mapped right over to it. So all the fire extinguishers were already shown, the AEDs were already shown, things that the architect had already included in the plans were already there. So we know that going forward, as we build new schools and we obtain the Revit model, it's going to be probably even more straightforward to get this information into ArcGIS Indoors. So let's see. So we've now got, at this point, we have 10 schools documented on ArcGIS Indoors. So that at that point, we kind of took a pause and realized that the state was coming in with this grant opportunity. We kind of knew that before, but the standards got kind of published a couple of months ago. So we kind of paused at 10 schools and we went back to look at what do we need to add to these layers of information to meet the state requirements for the grant. And it turns out we were in pretty good shape. We needed to kind of call things points of interest. So they wanted to see where all the AEDs were, and yes, we already had that in there. They wanted to see where all the trauma kits were that the health department provides in each school. So that was a point of interest that was added. Gas shut off, water shut off, all those types of things. We've kind of added those in, or we are in the process of adding those in now to our 10 current schools. So we worked with Land Tech to kind of provide that menu for us to choose from on the schools that are in there. So we'll be updating those. The other piece I did forget to mention, the other piece that was important for facilities was to include the floor finish on these on every room, because one of the other questions we get probably twice weekly is from the operations staff. Could you tell us how big the wing of this school is? Because they want to know how much square footage they're assigning to their custodial staff who cleans the building. So we're able to quickly pull up that information now. On the most recent high school that we've constructed that is on ArcGIS, I was able to go in and quickly make a spreadsheet of all the rooms that have quartz tile flooring that have furniture in them but are not corridors. So I was able to quickly get that information and come up with a square foot number so that we knew what we needed to do for cleaning and sealing purposes for that. So we've begun to see how we are going to use this in many different ways. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, and Mary, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, there's two things you said that I want to just
Mhm.
interject on. And I'll take the first one, on the floor finish piece. I think you highlighted a really big value piece that is separate from just having the mapping for, safety and security purposes, is now you've got this organized data you can do stuff with. If you want to export to Excel, I mean, that talks to the file format compatibility, right? That's simple and easy. And sometimes that's just the easy, simple way to do it. You can also work with, and we've built some kind of prototype dashboards that help you understand that too. So, right, it's very visual, right in your face, and you can uh, kind of filter and explore that data. And so just having the ability to do that, because you're building it on this dynamic platform that allows you to analyze. So I think right there, you got a great example of that. The other piece you mentioned, you took a pause, right? We took a pause and said, okay, let's look at the published standard. Where are our gaps? And I just want to reiterate how easy it was to say, okay, well, we've got AEDs. Let's build a simple structure to give you a placeholder and a place in which to collect the data for the other components that we hadn't collected previously during the pilot. And you
Mhm.
know, honestly, that was simple to do because of the platform you're built on. It's got that flexibility. You can extend it to include and define those other data points you want to collect. So you were well positioned to meet those requirements, and I think that's a testament to the platform.
Mhm. Yep. Let's see. Going forward. So yes, as Derek mentioned, I did see that this morning the application was sent in, so hopefully we'll be hearing from MCSS in the next month or so about, if they need any more information, we'll send it to them. So, and then at that point, we have prioritized that the next steps going forward is we're going to complete all of our high schools, migrate all of our high schools over to ArcGIS Indoors, all of our middle schools, and we've got four, I think there's 8, 16, 28 elementary schools that we will be able to migrate over. So because of this is going to be a big push, obviously. There's still going to be data verification required going through the schools. And again, a lot of these schools are the older buildings. So we don't have the nice Revit models to just transfer over. This is going to be CAD models, and a lot of schools that, are some are 30, 40 years old. And we're going to be in my office, we're going to be checking all the room numbering and all the plans that we're sending to Land Tech. And then after Land Tech incorporates that information, we have partnered with an architectural firm, Mosley, to assist us with, walking these schools and gathering these points of interest and verifying the information. So it's going to be kind of a two-check process before we send the drawings out to Land Tech, and then afterwards when we're kind of filling in the blanks on things. So the goal is to probably start that process. We figure, given the grant application, the time to write the contract and so forth, we'll probably start in January, which is giving my office the next 3 months to look at the floor plans for these 56 or whatever it is schools and make sure they're in the best shape for sending off for integration and migration into ArcGIS Indoors. And then we'll probably start in January and hope to finish, over the course of 2026. I don't think it should take a full year, but we'll work through that. So my overall reaction would be that we're glad we're working with ArcGIS Indoors. We had tried another product for a period of time. This one seems it's just working out well for us. And again, because it's what the county uses for their, like, we have a geocortex system and our transportation office uses, I feel like we're much more integrated and there's a whole lot more support because we have some pretty savvy folks over in those other offices that have really helped my office with the kind of the owner end of things. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know if there's any, I'd be curious if there's any LEA representatives on this call. Any other folks from facilities offices? I'd be happy to answer any questions either here or offline. You can always email me.
Let me take a look, Mary, see if there's anything in the chat or in the Q&A. Let's see here. Where is the Q&A? It's here somewhere.
Oh, there's something from, I'm not sure, Jeremy Brown. Is it being recorded? I think it is, right?
Yes, yes, it is being recorded, Jeremy. And
Jeremy,
what
county are you from? Okay. Are you with the school system? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, certainly if you wanted to have the facilities folks at Carroll County Schools, I'd be happy to talk to them about what we've done here.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll echo that, right? If there are any questions, we've got a couple minutes left on the allotted time. And so if people have questions and they want to throw it in the Q&A, we're happy to answer it here. But I know Mary's made the offer. I'll make it on behalf of Ridge too. If you have any questions about the presentation, about indoors, about the mapping standard and the regulations for Maryland, anything, we're happy to discuss offline or give you like an actual demo of what we've done and talk more in depth. Matt asked if we can export to an MMPK, a mobile map package? And the answer is yes. Is that what you're looking for there, Matt? And Matt, are you with one of the local responder agencies as well?
Matt is with Anne Arundel County. Hmm, okay. Oh,
And
there's Anne from. You're also from Anne Arundel County. Um, I know Anne. I know that Anne Sarah Blevins. I know that Tyler Smith in my office has been in touch with you, and that we're starting the coordination process. So can we send? Did you say this is being recorded, Derek? So we could
it
send that?
is, yeah. And so the recording will be made available. If anybody wants just the presentation, we're happy to share that as well. And if that's what
Mhm.
you're asking for sure. If you're looking for kind of a more general presentation or communication from the state, I'm not sure if there's a presentation for that, but we'd be happy to share what we've put together, and or meet right with anybody that you'd like. Just get in touch with us, and I'll reach out afterwards to make sure you get a copy of it. Um, and Joni says important to involve public safety GS as early as possible. GS program manager for Anne Arundel County Fire Department. Right, yeah. And Joni, you know what? That's spot on. When we got towards the end of not the pilot, but when we did that pause. So Mary talked about pausing after the couple of extra newer school builds that we imported. And once the standard was approved and published, because we had talked about it, we saw Anne Arundel County Public Schools was involved with the committee that was drafting up the standards, and so they were able to provide their insight and their experience kind of working with in indoor GIS. And you know, they said like let's wait until the standard is published so we know what the requirements are. And when they did, that was kind of the first thing we said as a group is one of the big things is making sure that you've got interoperability and we know what the requirements are for the local responding agency. So that is very high on our priority list to start there and make sure that we've got those requirements outlined. We understand what you all would be expecting so that you get what you need to operate efficiently. So I think that's a good point, Joni. I appreciate that. And then Matt
Joni,
says,
sorry, I
yeah.
put my email in there for Joni. Yes, I'd like to get in touch. We're now at that point where it's time to, now that we're starting to gather the safety and emergency information, we're just beginning to reach out, and we're also going through our Office of School Safety as well. So they're part of our effort. But then this is sort of the next phase. Uh-oh.
Well, yeah,
Well, I can't wait to talk to you, Joni. I want to find out about this.
no, yeah, I think this will be great, and I think just we were talking, we met. I mentioned we met with the Maryland Center for School Safety, right? And I'll just say, kind of as an aside, in showing the progress we've done, it was very well received, right? We were Anne Arundel's well on their way to being compliant with kind of what we've put together to date, and it's really meeting the intention of the standard and what we're going for. So I think that's a good vote of confidence there. But the one thing that was noted on that call was the benefit of the collaboration that has happened and will continue to happen. And I think what you mentioned there, Joni, with folks and having maybe a general misunderstanding of how that data is shared or used or leveraged. Just these collaborations that will occur as a result of this, I think, are going to make everybody better off. There is another question before we run out of time. Matt Webb again. Will AACPS maintain the data in ArcGIS Indoors going forward? And has there been a workflow developed for changes? I'll answer that for Mary in that yes, they're going to not only are we collecting the data and using the indoors model as the data model for it, but it is the ACPS's data. It will exist in their ArcGIS online organization, and that's where they will store and maintain that data over time. And then as far as the workflow for changes, yeah, so both internally, we will develop that and decide, who will be processing and stewarding that data on the Anne Arundel side. And then also what we haven't developed but will through the course of the project is the workflow for disseminating those updates, right? So and this kind of goes along with what Joni had said about um, making sure that there's a common understanding. So not only do we want to make sure it's available in the right format for those participating agencies and stakeholders and response agencies, but also when those changes are made, there's an easy way to replicate those and disseminate them, depending on how they're being shared and consumed by the other organizations. And we've got another one come in from Rob Hayward. Rob's with Esri as well. Rob says, I'll mention that the state has worked with the public safety community and Department of IT's guidelines and recommendations for indoor mapping that align with the NENA standards and are well aligned to Next Gen 911 standards. These were not requirements, but guidelines at the state level. So yeah, that's right. There's the Maryland State GIS is providing kind of a best practices and guidelines that are in line, like Rob said, with NENA standards and Next Gen 911. And I think just another good reason to consider ArcGIS Indoors is that data model aligns at the state level. So Maryland GIS has adopted ArcGIS Indoors as well, and so there's a lot of movement in that direction and quasi standardizing on a data model there. So a lot of good growth and opportunity there, and it's nice to see folks coalescing around this. And like Rich said, the indoors, kind of the new frontier, a lot of opportunity to map there, and this is a good solution for it. We're just about on time here. I know we kind of started the Q&A early and offered for everybody to be able to reach out. For sure, I'll say it again. Here's our contact info. You can grab that quick. I've got a QR code there that takes you to, we've got kind of a page where we've organized at Land Tech a lot of information about the Maryland grant and the standards and the guidelines and whatnot. Some stuff that we're offering as far as help with understanding and developing any of the requirements for your application. Some content about what we've done in the indoor space, as well as with Mary and the Anne Arundel team. So if you want to check that out, that's a good place to get some more information. You can also book some time with me to talk more about indoors or the Maryland program or just indoor mapping in general. If you are for one of the LEAs in Maryland and you want to have a proposal, be happy to work something up. We can do that pretty quickly so you get an idea of what it would cost. And I'll say for Ridge and Mary, though, you guys can chime in. If you have questions for them and want to talk more about anything they've talked about or discuss a little further, by all means, reach out. Ridge, Mary, anything you want to add before we close it out?
No, just thanks for the opportunity to work with you on setting this up, Derek, and Mary. Thanks for sharing your story as well. And yeah, hopefully you'll hear back from the grant team shortly here. But yeah, just be good to anyone in this call if you have connections into other school, county districts in Maryland. Great to leverage those and introduce us to those contacts you might have. So thank you.
Yes, thanks so much. And I'm so happy to see so many of our Anne Arundel County partners on this call too, because we will be working together on this. Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you to Ridge and Mary as well. Appreciate your time and participation. Everybody else, thank you for your time and spending an hour with us. Have a good rest of your day. Have a nice weekend, and hopefully we'll be talking soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.